Okay, I think it started. Okay, hi everyone. So thank you for joining. So today, Scientist is really excited to present first year panels. So this is our first one, and this is for computer science. And at 1 p.m. today, we have one for engineering with the same Zoom link. And then tomorrow at 12, we have one for life sciences. So if you're unsure about what you want to go into later, you can join one of those ones. And today we'll be talking about computer science specifically and our experiences with that.
Me and Kashaf are both the panelists for today, and we're both in computer science. If you guys have questions coming up along the way, feel free to use the chat, and we can answer them as we go, and we'll also dedicate time at the end to answer any remaining questions. So, yeah.
So first thing is who we are. So I could go first. So I'm Kashaf. I am just finished third year at U of T computer science, and I'm doing a double major in computer science and cognitive science, as well as a minor in psychology. So right now, after my third year, I'm currently on my PEY year, which is professional experience year at Ontario Teachers Pension Plan. And after this 1 year, I'll go back to school for a year. So it becomes like a 5-year program. And Tania can tell us a little bit about herself as well.
So hi guys, I'm Tania. My experiences are actually very similar to Kashaf. I came into this program hoping to do a specialist, but along the way I found I was really also into cognitive science. So I also ended up doing planning to do a double major with computer science and cognitive science, as well as a minor in psychology. I'm done my third year as well, and I'm on a software engineering co-op PUI year that started in May, and I'll be working for a year and then going back for my fourth year. So I'll graduate in 2022. As for the reason why I chose to get into computer science, I just always liked math in high school, and I heard that computer science was similar to math, so I was like, okay, I should probably go into something that I'm good at, and also like the salary doesn't hurt, so that's where I am today. Nice to meet everyone.
Okay, so what courses did you do first year? Tania, do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay, so my experience or our experiences from previous years is a little bit different, but we had like half of our courses were kind of recommended for computer science, like for the program requirements, and then the other half we kind of were free to choose. So typically you take around 10 courses a year, unless they're full year courses, then you'd take less. And so 5 of them were like the required program requirements, the computer sciences and the maths, and the other 5 credits was basically up to you to take electives. I took like a wide array of elective courses, which was kind of interesting. Because I didn't know what to take and I wanted things to fit in my schedule. So I just ended up trying out a lot of things because I didn't really get to experience as much elective courses in high school. So I wanted to kind of go all out first year because that's probably the best year you can since you have like the least amount of required courses. I ended up taking psychology, sociology, geology, which was pretty interesting. A course about food research, and yeah, I think those are my. Oh, I also took a history of Western music, so very like wide range of courses. I got to experience a bunch of different things first year.
Yeah, so in terms of my experiences, I did mostly like the CS requirements take up quite a few of your courses. So for us, it was a little bit different than it is this year. I also entered, I did take Math 1 through 6 and 1 through 5, which is different than Tanya. She did 1 through 7. However, this year, and we'll talk about this later, if you're in stream 1 through 7 is a requirement, so you don't have that option to do 1 through 5 and 1 through 6 if you're looking to further pursue computer science. in regards to like the other courses I took 2 first-year seminars, so 1 per semester. And what a first-year seminar is basically a class with around like 20 to 30 people, and they're usually just like these smaller classes, which people like taking in first year because it's kind of like high school. And they're usually just very interesting classes and very like it's such a small environment that it's really nice to like get to know people and make new friends. So I took 2 of those. I also took Psych 100, and because of Psych 100 and taking it, I firstly took it as a bird course, and it ended up not being as birdy as I thought it was. But I also learned that I really, really enjoyed it, and that's what led me to eventually do cog sci as well as psychology. So I highly recommend like maybe branching out of your comfort zone, and you might find out you like things that you didn't really think of. Anything else? Can I go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So what are the breath requirements and how early should I start thinking about them? So breath requirements are basically, as a U of T student, you need to take a variety of different courses in order to graduate. So we have different breaths. So we have 5 different ones, and you need to take either, I think, 0.5 from each, or and there's like different requirements for that. I don't exactly remember them, but it's very, very easy to Google. The reason I don't know most of them is because my breath requirements were fulfilled by my IB credits. So I got credits transferred over because I did IB, and therefore I never worried about breath. However, if you did do IB, I do highly recommend checking to see like if you do need the breath, or you might need very, very little breath requirements after if your credits did transfer over. So if you did do IB or like AP or any of that, those do count towards breath requirements, and therefore it makes your life a lot easier in terms of breath. And I never really had to worry about it. But I think Tania has a different experience with that.
Yeah, so the breath requirements are like 5 different categories, and they're kind of made to like fulfill like all the different disciplines that exist, because they kind of want you to get a taste of everything before you graduate. So you can either do like one course, 1/2 credit for in each of the 5 and fulfill it, or if there's like a particular breath that you don't see yourself fulfilling, you can do one of the other ones. Sorry. And so I tried to do most of my breath requirements in first year actually, because we do have like we have like five credits we can take as electives, and so that's kind of also the reason why I took like a wide array of courses in my first year electives. If you don't take too many breath requirements, it is still possible like to take it second, third, and fourth year. A lot of people scared me at the beginning saying like, oh, try and get all your breath requirements out of the way, but I don't think that's like necessary, because you will have like room for electives, and you'll also have summer school in case you ever fall behind. So yeah, I wouldn't say like make it the end of the world if you don't end up like taking all of them, but definitely like start looking into them first year. It's good to get some of them out of the way, especially the fields that you feel like you would never typically do. You can just get them out of the way in first year. Yeah, and that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. So what are some things to keep in mind when planning your course schedule? So in regards to this, it'll probably be very different this year because classes are online. They can be asynchronous, synchronous, or some classes have an in-person component. And that is new to all of us. Like none of us have experienced these types of classes. However, in regards to just like in general, how I would structure classes is that you don't want them too far apart and having like big gaps throughout your day, in my personal opinion, because I feel like it's better to just get all your classes over with and then have the rest of the day to actually do your work or do other things. However, if they're like spread out and you have one at 1 p.m. and one at like 7 p.m., then you have this huge chunk of time in the middle, which you hope you can spend productively, but a lot of the times it's just not. So my personal preference is to lump courses together so that I can just get them all over with at once. Um, that's my personal preference. And in regards to online courses, although they're new, I am currently taking an online course. And what I have to say about that is that just email your profs if you have any concerns. Like if it is synchronous and you hope that lectures are recorded, you can express that concern to your prof. You can express the fact that maybe you're not in Canada right now. And you're not in the same time zone. And from what I've experienced so far, that my prof has been very understanding of that. When I say like, oh, is it okay if you record lectures? They're like, yeah, of course, we're doing it for students because we don't know where they are or if they're available at those times. So I just suggest like reaching out to your profs whenever you have any concerns, because they are very nice and you shouldn't really be intimidated by them.
Yeah, I definitely think it's like gonna be pretty different now that a lot of things are offered online. You can have like the synchronous option where you have to tune in at a certain time, and that may be because the profs are requiring like class participation. But there's also the asynchronous version because you never know when your Wi-Fi could cut out. It's very like iffy now. So um, just speaking in general, when planning your course schedule, you kind of know yourself best. So you know like when your brain is most awake, when you're most ready to work and stuff. So you would like if you're a morning person, you'd probably want to take your classes in the morning. But let's say you can never get up in the morning, but you have your boost of energy at night. Maybe evening classes are more suited to you, so you can try that. Um, yeah, you don't really want to have too big of a break in between because it gets easy, like in between the break, to just like slack off and then not get back in the mood by the time the evening class rolled around. If anyone is taking classes in person, I am a commuter, so I can also kind of speak on that aspect. Being a commuter is kind of like, it's difficult if you're trying to commute during rush hour. Like I never liked commuting during rush hour. And first year I made the mistake of like kind of like starting my classes at 9 a.m. and like ending at 5 p.m., which is terrible for commuting. I really didn't like that because I just don't like the crowds. Um, so what I did later on was like make my classes start like later in the day or like end later so that I could avoid that complete rush hour and I would get home a lot quicker. Um, Another thing you can do is schedule like give yourself a free day or a couple free days. Like first year I got lucky and was able to get Tuesday and Thursday off and have all my classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. The only problem was like my Monday and Wednesday were like pretty much packed and I was at campus all day. So it depends. It really depends on like what how you think you would work better. Like I really liked having the free days to just like stay home, relax, and like sleep in because commuting to campus can be pretty draining sometimes. But if you have short days, then that's okay too.
How did you pick your electives? Tanya, do you want to go first for this one?
Yeah, so I kind of already spoke about this, but in terms of like electives, I kind of really didn't know what I was doing, so I wanted to get the breath requirements out of the way. I also wanted things to fit in with my schedule so that I could have the free days. But I think it's good to pick electives that you could potentially see yourself being interested in. Some electives that you never got to try out, because you do want them to be like an average booster for you. And if they're like the most boring elective in the world, then you're probably not gonna like pay attention as much and not do as well. But they do the computer science department gives like a bunch of like recommendations about what programs could pair well with computer science. For example, a lot of people like to do math or statistics or economics. So if you feel like you're not really sure what other kinds of courses you'd be interested in, it might be a good idea to look at those types of program requirements and take like the first year electives for those. So that way, if you decide later on that you want to maybe do a double major or a minor in something else, you'll have those prerequisites from first year. So that might be a good idea. I ended up taking psychology like just as a breath as a breath requirement, like Kashaf did, and I ended up really enjoying the material, which which kind of helped me decide on doing a cognitive science major in the future. So yeah, that might be helpful.
Yeah, so my advice in regards to picking your electives is not necessarily to pick what people say is easy, because I feel like even easy courses can be hard if you don't like them or if you're not interested. So I I prefer picking courses I think I'd be interested in, because then it becomes easier to like study and actually do the work. And I've taken courses where people are like, "Oh, this is so easy," but because of the fact that I'm not really interested in the material and I'm not motivated to study, it doesn't become like that bird course that you kind of look for or like a lot of people want. So I suggest like looking genuinely for what you're interested in, because I think that's a lot more valuable to your education, as well as you're just going to have a better experience in that class if you're actually interested in the subject. Next. So what are some resources for choosing your courses or planning your schedule? So there are several. I can talk on my personal favorite, which is the course tool. Let me see if I can actually pull it up and show you guys how to do it on Acorn. Am I allowed to do that here? One sec.
Yeah, if you're sharing your screen, you can
Yeah, I don't know why it's not skipping. There we go.
really helpful like further down the line when you're trying to plan out your degree and making sure like if you like to be organized, like it's a really helpful tool.
Yeah. Is there any other resources you want to talk
And other resources. So obviously I like to use timetable just to see like what my actual schedule will look like for the day, figure out like how long the breaks are and stuff like that. And then you guys would probably have already heard of Course Finder. Some other things I like to look at is there's like arts and science anti-calendar. The anti-calendar is kind of like a place where students evaluate the courses that they took, and you could like see like how students like reacted to certain courses, which might help like influence your opinion when you're deciding or planning like what courses you want to take. So yeah, I found that interesting as well.
Is there a best time for labs and tutorials? So, in my personal opinion, I don't think there really is. I preferred morning things in the morning or afternoon. I found myself by like 6 to 9, like those are classes that I still ended up taking, but I was just very out of it by then in the day. Mostly because like if you get home by like 10, then at that point you're like, okay, the day's over. I don't really want to study. And you basically do not want to like actually go and start working that late. So I think like for me, I like getting things done early in the day and having my classes done by like 2 or 3. And I had a lot of that in first year. But as courses kind of like some courses you just kind of have to fit in your schedule and you ended up taking evening classes. And with evening classes for me, evening tutorials, evening labs, I'm just really, really tired. And that's how I feel about it.
Um, so yeah, in terms of like labs and tutorials, I think lectures are very like low maintenance. You're just listening in, but usually labs and tutorials are hands-on, and more often than not, you're probably doing some kind of work that could be handed in or graded on. So you definitely like want to make sure that your mindset is like in the right place for at least like the labs and tutorials. I found that you just don't want to have a very heavy day before the lab or tutorial where you've had like a lot of classes before, because by then like you're probably exhausted. If you do have like a lab or tutorial in the evening but you haven't had like much that day, or it's like your first thing of the day, then that could be good because then you could like use the day to prepare for it. But yeah, I feel like you definitely don't want to have too much beforehand. And if you're a morning person, then take them in the morning. That would be good too. But yeah, it's really up to you.
Mm. How many courses would you recommend per term? Should I take only science-based courses? So, in my first year, I ended up taking 4 per term, and I can do that because, as I mentioned before, I was in the IB program, so I've had credits already available to me. And the reason, if you do have IB credits, you can choose to transfer them over or not. I highly recommend doing it because you can take less courses and you're still not behind on your degree. So, what I would suggest, I personally think 4 is a good course load for me. Even now, in third year, I had 1 semester with 4. Um, and I usually just take classes in the summer as well. Um, for me, I find 5 classes to be a bit overwhelming. Um, and I know some people who do 4 or 3 every semester. Um, I've taken 5 per semester, and I feel like those semesters my grades aren't as good and I'm more overwhelmed. But I do think it is up to you if and the course load of those courses. If you take 5 like reasonable courses, it's fine. But if you take 4 really, really heavy courses, that's basically the equivalent to 5 kind of like average courses, I guess. So I think it's really important to just look at the course load and see what you can manage. And the transition from high school and university, I feel like is very different. Like you might think you can take even 6 per semester, but I don't recommend doing that. That's like way too much. So it's okay to drop courses. It's okay to add courses later on. Like that all is very normal here. So oh, and in regards to should I take only science based, I don't think so at all. I personally am not like in the mood to do math or computer science all day, and that's why I do like psych or cog sci things because it helps like give your brain like a different thing to work on. So that's my suggestion in regards to that.
Okay, so for me, I think, yeah, it's pretty important to stress that you don't have to take a full course load. So a full course load is 5 courses per term. I know, like, for some people, it's hard because they have to only be like, they can only they want to graduate within 4 years, or they don't have enough money to afford taking extra years, or yeah, they can't do summer school. So in that aspect, like, you would want to take, your 5 every semester so you can graduate on time. But I, I do want to stress, like, don't be afraid to take like a shorter course load. I had in my third year, I ended up dropping 1 course, and then I had 4, and then the semester just completely changed for me. It just felt so much easier. Like, I feel like you can do a lot better when you have like the time and you're not mentally exhausted. Your grades could definitely like improve. So if you feel like you're really struggling first year with your grades not being as high as you wanted, maybe consider like shortening your course load. If you take less than 4 courses a semester, you actually have the option to pay per course as opposed to paying like the full tuition fee. So if that's cheaper for you, you should look into that as well later on. But for first year, since you're not really sure, I would recommend, doing your research on the courses that you're taking and seeing like what the like difficulty level or the workload level is for those courses. You definitely don't want to have more than 3 courses that have a difficult workload, because then you'll just find yourself exhausted. So yeah, like, if you take 1 or 2 like nice bird courses, elective courses to mix in with your semester, then it's definitely possible to do 5. Some people do 6 as well. If they want to graduate early, or if you it also saves money if you do 6, because you end up paying like the same tuition fee. So it's really like up to you to gauge. But yeah, what you can do is you can take 6 right at the beginning and see like which course is your least favorite, or the one you see yourself not doing, and then just drop it. The university like allows that option to take up to 6, so it's another option as well. But yeah, like, don't be afraid to play around with your schedule. In terms of science based, some people are really like into science and science only, and then they'll find themselves like not being able to do well in other courses like English or any type of course that requires writing an essay, those types of things. So I think it's good to experiment with other types of courses, because having only science and math based might be might be like a little bit too much for your mind. But if you do feel like you excel in science only, or specifically science, feel free to do that. As long as you get your breadth requirements, you're more than welcome to. You might find that the best courses that you'll excel in are the science-based ones. So yeah, it's really up to you.
Okay. What were your favorite courses and what are some good GPA boosters? So in regards to my favorite courses, I think my 3 favorite courses, okay, like I can say like a couple of them. So one of them is 318, CSC 318, which is the design of computational media, I think is the exact name, but the course code is 318. And basically it involves creating a project the entire semester. And the reason I like that is it gave a lot of like project management information. And for me, that's something I potentially am looking forward to going into. And just having like that whole semester basically to do a project with a team is really fun. You get to like hang out with your team a lot and just like work on that assignment. And I thought it was really fun to think about something and design something. Another one is CSC 207, which follows the general same structure. It is a group project for the entire semester, and I really like that course as well. In terms of non-CS courses, I would say any of the psych courses I took, I think they're all interesting in their own right. The psych courses, a lot of them overlap each other. You'll see like if you take one psych class and you take another, a lot of the information you get is very similar. But I think the psych classes are really interesting. And in regards to the idea of GPA boosters, I don't think much is a GPA booster if you're not really interested in it. Like, again, I feel like you should prioritize interest over what you think is a GPA booster, because in the end it might not be.
Good advice. So my favorite courses, I would say actually in terms of like interest ended up being like the cognitive science and the psych, because so that's why I ended up deciding to do a major. I originally took Cog 250 just to get like some credits out of the way. I did it over the summer, but then I found like I was really like interested in the material. There's like talk about artificial intelligence, stuff like that. So in terms of like, yeah, interest, that was definitely one of my favorites. Another course I enjoyed and could recommend if you are in the CS mindset is PHL 245. It's like it's titled Modern Symbolic Logic, and then that course is kind of very similar to the logic math that you'll do in first year. But it's a lot easier. So you could either take that in first year or second year, and then if you do feel like you had a strong foundation from first year, that course shouldn't be difficult as long as you're interested in the material. If you absolutely hated logic, then obviously I wouldn't recommend, because it's best to take courses that you'd be most interested in. And yeah, GPA boosters, just maybe like having a course that doesn't have like as big of a workload might help in terms of like, you can like dedicate more time to the couple assignments that there is during the semester. Because if you constantly have things like being due, then you might not like do well on certain of them, which might end up bringing your average down. And you can also look into the types of assessments that the class is offering. Some people don't do well in multiple choice at all. So maybe if like everything in that course is just multiple choice, might not be a good idea. Or like the opposite might be true. You might be really good at multiple choice, so you'd want to have assessments in multiple choice. Yeah, so play to your strengths with that, I think.
Yeah, with that being said, like you can't see the syllabus for a course before you actually do it, like, or enroll. But what I used to do was just like search up the course and search up a syllabus, and you can find like somebody's usually posted it somewhere, and you can see like even the syllabus from like 2018. And more likely or not, like for example, Psych 100 is always multiple choice. So if you see that it's multiple choice, you can be like, okay, well, it's more likely than not going to be multiple choice this year as well.
Mhm.
However, with that being said, you're not going to have exams or anything this year if it's an online course, so it might be different, but you can kind of gauge if it's more like an essay-based course, assignment-based course, or like what actually is happening. Worst comes worst, you can always email your profs if you find out who's like the course coordinator for that, or just like who's teaching that class. You can email them and be like, what's the general structure of this course? And I don't see any reason why they would just refuse to tell you.
I also think the U of T Reddit is a pretty good resource when you're looking up courses. A lot of people post about course syllabus, their opinions, and that type of stuff. So just give a quick Google search to your course if you're interested in, and you might find like information about it. So yeah.
Okay. Is there anything course section related you learned now that you wished you knew first year? Tanya, do you want to go first?
Okay, so something I kind of wish I knew is that U of T does allow you to have a course like schedule conflict. Um, Now, I'm not like recommending this, but there was this course I wanted to take first year. It was like called the Magic of Physics or something. But by the time my enrollment time like rolled around, uh, it was that there was like two lecture section offerings, I think, and one of them was filled, but the other one was open. But the one that was open conflicted with my other another course I had, and so I ended up not taking it. But I feel like in those types of situations, if you really are interested in doing the course, it's possible for you to just schedule yourself in the other lecture, because most of the time the lectures are like very low maintenance, and you can like lecture hop and go to a different lecture to get the material down. The only thing you'd have to be worried about is if both classes required you to have a test on the same day. Um, then the university says that's like your responsibility since you're the one who made the schedule. But typically, if you do approach professors and talk to them about that happening, they're pretty lenient and they'll try and accommodate you. Same thing with the exams. However, like the likelihood of that happening is pretty low, like having a test at the exact same time on the exact same day, because you only have around two tests or one test a semester. So yeah, what I wish I knew is that I could have done that. So because then I could have taken that course despite the conflict. Because you can definitely just go into another lecture since they don't take attendance and yeah.
Yeah, I think in regards to course selection, I think one thing that I think wish I knew is that you don't have to go to that specific course just because you're enrolled in that section for some classes. I recommend you start going there and then seeing maybe you might have like a different prof than the other section and your prof is making your midterm. So in that case, you probably want to go to your own section. However, a lot of the times, for example, there is like a professor who has multiple sections and you can just kind of lecture hop. Like, for example, if he's doing the same lecture at 11 a.m. as well as at like noon, sometimes I would be enrolled in the 11 a.m. lecture but show up at noon with that prof, just because like he's the same one teaching. I know he's the same one, like he's giving the same lecture just an hour later, and I did that sometimes like if I slept in or something. So I think that that's always possible, but make sure your prof is okay with it, because sometimes like there are like lecture required, like the room can't be too full and stuff. So if like everyone chooses to go to the later lecture, that might not work. So and also that's not necessarily as relevant this year,
Yeah, with online.
because it's all online. You can't really lecture hop then because they're not, I'm sure, sending out the link to everyone. But just if you are taking an in-person course that later on in your later years, that's something to consider. This year, don't lecture hop because the in-person stuff is very strict capacity. So don't try to like lecture hop this year.
Yeah, or check with your professors and see like what their policy is on this. I think that's it for
Is that it? Okay.
the questions. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Someone asked me a question about like if there's a way to see. Let me just pull it up. Why can't I see? Yeah. Okay. Somebody just asked about like, can we see which which courses have what assignments and essays and stuff, like what basically the assessments are beforehand. No, you cannot. However, as I said before, just make sure you can just Google the syllabi from
Mhm.
previous years.
What you can do is like I mentioned this before, but you can enroll in up to 6 courses. You can do that to see you can go to the class and see all the syllabuses. They'll show up on your Kirkus, and then yeah, just drop your least favorite.
Is there any other questions?
We could potentially go over any general tips that we missed
Yeah, if you want us to go.
while people, if in case anyone has a question later on.
If not, then we can wait like a minute or so.
Yeah, so with course selection coming up, make sure you have backup or alternative options, because you definitely don't want to panic when you realize that the course you were planning to take is filled up completely.
Oh, I got.
So having the backup plan is a good idea.
Yeah, so I just got a question. If you're not in the CS admission category, is it hard to declare a CS post? So there's two streams. So if you get accepted into computer science from high school, you're in stream. And if you are, let's say, accepted into economics or something, and you want to go into CS, then you are considered CS out of stream. So out of stream typically, and post requirements have changed since we've gotten into post, but out of stream is typically harder to get into. Tania, you know more about like the actual requirements this year, right?
Yeah.
Out of stream.
So in case like you didn't know already, after first year, students are required to declare their programs. So even though you came in from high school with a program, you still have to declare like your array of programs, because it might be possible you want to do another major or a different minor. You have to like make sure you meet the like right requirements. I think it's either one specialist or a double major, or a major and 2 minors. So yeah, depending on the program, some of them require you to meet certain requirements. There's 3 types of programs. Computer science is a type 2 program, which means you have to get accepted. So you will apply through Acorn around the time period. It's something like March or something. I'm not too sure, but keep your eye out for when it comes time to declare a program. And then you can see all the program requirements in order to get in. Computer science is really finicky because they don't tell you exactly what you need to get in, which kind of created like this really intensely competitive environment. Everyone knows if you're out of stream, there's these 2 courses, CSC 148 and CSC 165, and they kind of take your marks and then they just take everyone who's like maybe in the top 200 and make the cutoff average based on the person who got the lowest grade in the top 200. And so then they'll say, oh, everyone above this average got in and everyone below it didn't get in. So there's that. And then if you're in stream now, it's kind of different. You do get to see what the requirements are. They have a minimum average on the courses you have to take, and you just have to meet that minimum requirement and take the specific courses. And if you meet those, then you will be in the program for sure. If you don't, it might be possible for you to try again next year, but by retaking the same courses, or to try again in the summer. But definitely look into this because I'm not sure how much the department has changed over time. But yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions before we leave this? No? No? Okay, I think that's it. I think we gave.
So we created like a document in case anyone is interested. It has like useful links and some general tips. Should we share it here or?
We can share it here and in the Facebook.
Okay.
So can you put it in the chat?
Yeah. So I'm gonna share a Google Doc link, and you guys can check that out if you're interested. It just basically has useful links that and some of the tips that we talked about today. And then if you do miss it here, I just sent it in the chat, but if you do miss it, we will also be posting this to our Facebook event, so the information will be there. This whole session has also been recorded in case anyone was interested in viewing it later on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you guys for coming. Hopefully this was useful. If you want any more questions, you can message the scientist at Facebook. The doc is really detailed, and we'll post that on the Facebook as well.
Thank you so much, everyone.